So I see connections. I see connections everywhere, right? No, these are just some of the things that I started to just observe that we were just getting hit with, right? And no one knows what comes first, what to address first. And for me, what I recognized was, there's really a need for this principle and concept of human revolution. And as I've quoted it before, if this is your first time hearing it, great. If this is your third, fourth time hearing it, great. But a great human revolution in just a single individual will help achieve a change in the destiny of a nation, and further can even enable a change in the destiny of humankind. And I feel like we all sensed, but we all are tired of the BS, right? And as a result, for me, I've just genuinely asked myself, well, what's my role, right, in empowering and sort of elevating the consciousness of the world? So human revolution begins with changing your perception of self and your environment as a function of that self. So in other words, like when you change your perception, right? Like, for example, most people in some ways feel like they're powerless, that they can't change anything, that they can't be an agent of transformation in the world. But when they view themselves that way, then the world kind of seems like an overwhelming experience, right? But when you recognize that, look, the world is going to move in a function, in a direction of your persistent belief, right? Then the world begins to shift and reflect that persistent belief, right? That's what this really comes down to. And if you don't have a persistent belief, that's why human revolution starts to matter. So, like I said, a great human revolution in a single individual will help achieve a change in the destiny of a nation, and further can enable the change in the destiny of humankind. So, just like anything else, right? When we start to notice that other people are stepping up and other people are taking full 100% ownership of what their role is and bringing about a change, there is a part of us that's lit and inspired to take similar action, right? Especially if it really speaks to our soul. I want to make this point by echoing some of the work that was done by Bruce Lipton, who's an author of a book called Biology of Belief. He's also a stem cell biologist. And he made some key observations, and here's one of the observations he made. Perception is awareness shaped by belief. Beliefs control perception. And if you rewrite your beliefs, right, you rewrite your perception, right? Rewrite beliefs and you rewrite perception. Rewrite perception and you rewrite genes. Now, this is kind of a little bit of a wild card, and behavior. So I'm free to change how I respond to the world. So as I change the way I see the world, I change my genetic expression. We are not victims of our genes. We are masters of our genetics. This gets into the idea of epigenetics, which has to do with, again, changing our genetic expression is a function of our perception, right? And perception is a function of thought. So our thoughts control our life by controlling our genes. And of course, our genes, our DNA, right, really holds those instructions for making all the proteins that make up our body, right? So that's how closely tied our thoughts are to how, our physical expression. Now, one of the things I stole, right? This is like a screenshot, not super clear, but like I mentioned, I just snagged it. Of course, in each cell you have your DNA. So he talks about how your cell behaves as a function of, I forgot the actual term, signals, right? When it gets a certain signal that is negative, it goes into protection, which you see on the right. When it gets a signal that of something that's life affirming, it goes into growth, right? That's the attraction on the left, right? And repulsion's on the right. So I flipped that, and I wanted to demonstrate something here. And hang on one second. I'm gonna make sure you see the full. You can see the cell in the middle there, and of course the growth is goes towards the top, and the protection goes, sort of the cell shrinks back, right, towards the bottom. And Bruce, in one of the lectures, his biology of belief lecture, talks about how on that attraction side is really, just love, infinite love, and just all things that just cause the cell to grow. Now, one of the things he also I wanted to mention that I identified with was a map of consciousness that I've referenced before by David Hawkins. This is just a slide that highlights the life view. Now remember, life view would relate to perception. So if your life view is at these bottom levels of miserable, evil, hopeless, tragic, frightening, disappointing, antagonistic, life begins to feel that you're at the cellular level, that you have to sort of be in protection mode, right? However, when you get to that point of something being feasible and then move above that to satisfactory and hopeful and harmonious, the cell grows. Now, the cell is the basic unit of life. So if you are able to perceive life from that level of feasible and above, right, you give yourself the greatest chance, right, of optimal health and well-being. All right. So that said, on the right side where you see the world, so there's a model which is the Buddhist model of the 10 worlds of the human condition, which I've mentioned before is featured in a playbook that I created. And the reason why I technically used this to replace the map of consciousness, but I recognized that there were parallels, and the parallels was that at the bottom you see hell and at the top you see Buddhahood, right? And in between you have a similar sort of spectrum, but it's truncated to 10 worlds, hunger, animality, anger, right? And the same thing, the body's going to respond the same way, right? When you are in those states or in those worlds, right? So why does this really matter? Well, here's why it matters. Because a cell is defined as the smallest basic unit of life, right? That is responsible for all of life's processes. So if you're not managing your thoughts to influence your cell's behavior, right, you're pretty much done, right? As in, you're not going to experience life at that optimal level that you want. So if you change thoughts, right, you can impact your DNA, essentially, is what the statement of the argument for epigenetics is, right? And of course your DNA is in a cell. So the game change right now that I feel is, as weird and like sort of scientifically oriented this is, I'm not going to get into some biological debate about this, right? I'm just, again, leveraging the work that's been done. What I sense is there's a need for us to start to learn about who we are as human beings to really begin to affect how we show up. So essentially, if you recognize this behavior, this pattern of your cells, right? And you recognize that you have thoughts that are at the lower level, that are minimizing, that are compromising your immune system, right? You may want to reconsider and say, I want my thoughts to be at the higher level, right? I feel like that's as simple and as basic as it can get. Now, the processes involved in making those shifts, yeah, sure, that does take something, right? But at least from basic principles, like the quality of your life, right? Life being a holographic expression of your thoughts, your most prominent held beliefs. I mean, you get to choose what kind of world you want to live in, right? By choosing what kind of thoughts you want to feed your body. And again, and the thing about this is that, right, we're all vibrational and energy beings, right? And your thoughts are allowing your body to resonate at a particular level. So if you want your vibrations to be higher and to create a world of peace, then you have to be able to look at where your thoughts are concentrated. So If your thoughts are where they need to be, then you can eliminate the fear, you can eliminate the worry, you can eliminate the anxiety, you can eliminate the stress, which ultimately weakens immune systems, right? So you get to choose how you want to go about living, right? Leveraging your thoughts. So I don't know about you, right? But this is what our world used to look like. And can you imagine having this conversation with someone being like, hey, yeah, we used to really spend, some time around each other, but now we don't. It's just crazy, right? But for me, I'm okay with having, life be filled with people again, and recognizing, like, the experience of being together doesn't have to be something that I am scared to experience. With exercising together, right? Without having to be socially distanced apart. Although this one looks like they may have, separated to be able to do their poses. And we can have this kind of a world again, right? Where you can really be in harmony with yourself. Now, this is not the world that I want. Now, what I mean by nothing to do with the political party or anyone in here. This has to do with just overall, right? This is just indicative of where we are headed, where some parts of our consciousness is headed, right? So this is an expression of me and you and the collective. And nobody, I don't think, really wants to have to protest to be let out. It's like we're grounded. We're asking to be able to come out and play. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about, okay? Don't get crazy about this. So a cell is defined as the smallest basic unit of life and is responsible for life processes. So if you want that cell, right, to replicate and become a life-affirming expression along with the other cells that it will produce, then of course it starts at that energetic level and frequency of your DNA. And you get to change your thoughts, which are also your inner conversations, which are also your vibrations, right? Because this all just comes down to energy. So, if you are able to change this, then you can most certainly change that. And for sure, by default, you can change this, or how at least it shows up. And all these guys, right, can change, right, whatever it is that has inspired them or that they've found to be life-threatening enough to lead them out of the door, right? Like, this is all a collective cellular expression, so that we can get back to being able to do this again. Can you imagine not being able to have dinner together during the holidays? Or your kids no longer being able to have play dates? No more baby showers. No more New Year's Eve parties. No more weddings. Or big weddings anyway. I mean, it's insane. All because we're afraid of this. Like, I want my crowds. I want my yoga, right? And I'm willing to do the work to change myself at the cellular level. And to look back at this, I want to just break it down like this. The cell is either growing or sort of in some, I guess you could say, equilibrium state, right? Of neutrality, or it's in repulsion, or it's in attraction. And it's a function of your perception, which is a function of belief, right? Your perception is a function of your belief. But what's your belief a function of? Well, your belief is a function of Y, which is your assumptions. And your assumptions are a function of Z, which is the questions you ask or don't ask based on your truth or your conclusions about reality. And that's really critical. So, my invitation to you is to really begin to examine what your assumptions are about reality. Because if you don't recognize who we are as human beings at the energetic level, then you're going to look out into the world and really allow the world to inform you on how to show up. right? Which is not a powerful place to show up from. Again, to requote what Bruce said at the top of this, he said, perception is awareness shaped by belief. Beliefs control perception. Rewrite beliefs and you rewrite perception. Rewrite perception and you rewrite genes and behavior. I'm free to change how I respond to the world, so I can change the way I see the world. So as I change the way I see the world, I change my genetic expression. We are not victims of our genes, we are masters of our genetics. And the critical piece of this is that when you are a master of your genetics, you actually are a master of the energetic field that you create in the world. And our thoughts control our life by controlling our genes. So in other words, our thoughts control our life at the cellular level. And thoughts change by engaging in the human revolution of the self. And when you're able to do that, yeah, you can be that individual, single individual that can help achieve a change in the destiny of a nation or your community or your home, right? And further can enable a change in the destiny of all humankind. So thank you for watching. I hope you'll take me up on the Human Revolution Challenge, whatever that is for you, right? By really examining your assumptions about reality and who you are and what you're capable of. All right, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon. If you've liked this, of course, subscribe and like the video, of course. Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. All right, guys.